All right, today we're going to go over a bunch of guitar terms that you absolutely need to know. I'm begging you, please know these. Just stick with me in this video. Let's just get through all of the ones we can think of, and let's make you a better guitar player starting with this. First up, hammer-ons. Hammer-ons is where you take the force of a finger, in this case, the ring finger on my fretting hand, and use something kind of like this. So normally when you try to get a note, when you're trying to fret out a note, you want to pick it. So you want to get both of these notes kind of picked. So instead of doing that, instead of getting that extra abrasive kind of picking sound for the second note, I don't know why I did this with my fingers, we're going to use the force of our finger to slam onto the fretboard. It just ties the notes together in a way that just sounds a bit smoother, and it's really good for certain circumstances. Pull-offs are a little bit different. They're basically the opposite. Pull-offs is where you take the force of your finger and you pull the string downwards towards the floor, basically treating one of these fingers kind of like its own pick. Now, the reason why we do this rather than pick is the sound of your finger pulling off the string is just softer than using a pick, this little guy. Check it out. So that's the sound of a pull-off. Here is the same thing picked. It sounds just like a bit smoother, a bit nicer. You don't always want to do this, but it's great for certain scenarios. So yeah, that's what a pull-off is. All right, if you add them together, you get what's called legato. Legato basically just means tied together. So instead of picking a bunch of notes all in a row, you'll just do a bunch of hammer-ons and pull-offs, just kind of like this. Now, picking each note, it would sound kind of like this. And you can tell it's a lot smoother. It's a little bit more, I don't know, there's something kind of nice to it. It's not nearly as abrasive. Now, sometimes you want that abrasive sort of extra picked tone, but in this case, we want to just do a nice legato run. Let's get nice smoothness, adding hammer-ons and pull-offs. Picking once per string is kind of the rule on guitar when it comes to legato, but there's no real hard and fast rules. Just do more hammer-ons and pull-offs and you'll be all good. All right, up next, palm muting. It's basically taking this side of your hand. No, it's not exactly using the inside of your palm like the name might suggest. It's more using the side of your hand here and just resting that on the bridge to mute the sound, making the sound a little bit more dead. You actually like get rid of certain frequencies when you do this. Sounds kind of like this, as opposed to this. You could tell it's like a lot less high end. It's a little bit more bass response, and the decay of the string also sounds, or the decay of the note also sounds a little bit different. Cuts the sustain like crazy, and it just changes the shape of the note. So it's great for, yeah, like kind of riffing. So that was right hand muting. That's basically like picking hand muting is what they mean by that. Now we can do the other hand with some muting as well, and we can use a left hand mute. And I don't want to exclude the left hand players, so this would just be like a fretting hand mute. So it sounds kind of like this. What you could do with this is like if you have certain chords and you want to make them sound kind of like funky. You could do something kind of like that where you're lifting up the string off of the fret, but you're not letting your fingers go off of the string itself. So you're still muting it. You're basically like lifting off. I would say probably to avoid harmonics, which we'll talk about later. And use multiple fingers. It's pretty tough to do though. It's pretty tough. Single strings, it really depends. Not super common, I guess. You could get some kind of rhythmic addition to whatever you're playing. It's notated by a little X. So anytime you see a little X, it just means lift your fingers up off the frets, but still keep them flat across the string to keep it muted. Hey, this video is brought to you by Sweetwater.com. Everything in this office I got pretty much from Sweetwater. You can see all these guitars. Well, I didn't get all of them from Sweetwater, but a whole bunch of them. I also have like, whoa, this is a dizzying ad. My computer workstation here, there's like a bunch of cameras, these Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K, these Yamaha speakers, this ultra-wide monitor, this Rodecaster Pro 2. There's so many things here that I have that they offer, so go check out the list of things that I use that they offer on their website as well. I'm actually recording right now with the Rode Lav mics that they sell. Just go check it out, please. It supports the channel. Thank you so much. See you later. Bye. Bending. Bending sounds very, very fun. It's a very expressive way to play guitar. It sounds kind of like this. right, so it's basically just taking the string and you're raising the pitch of it by raising the tension, tightening the string by pulling it down or up. Doesn't really matter which direction. Either way, you're going to be raising the tension, which means you're going to be raising the pitch. One of the things you have to think about is like how far up you're raising it. So if you were to play, let's say, the 12th fret of the G string, and then you want to bend up to that note from somewhere else, I would go down to the 10th fret and see if I can bend all the way up a full step. Full step is 2 frets. You could also do something else. You could go to the 12th fret of the G, and then go down to the 9th fret of the G, and bend all the way up a step and a half. You have to know how far up you're bending. Otherwise, it's just going to sound like shit if you go to the wrong note. And it's really important to know how far up to bend. It's all within, more or less within the scale that you're playing. But yeah, that's bending. A bend and release is just basically describing how the bend is going to end. A bend up basically tells you to bend up to this note. But a bend and release describes how you're going to let go of that note. So if you were to bend and release like this, so go up to a new note and then back down to the original note. Something else you can also do is a pre-bend, taking the note and bending it up before you even pick it, kind of like this. Now, the tough thing about pre-bending is that you have to know the tension, how far you have to push the string or pull it down or up or whatever in order to get the desired pitch. So you're taking the string, I'm just doing a half step bend here. And I just know, my fingers kind of instinctively know how far up to go with the string so that it doesn't sound totally like shit. So that one's kind of tough because it's kind of like you have to close your eyes and you have to figure out where you have to go. And yeah, it takes a while, but you'll get it. All right, vibrato is basically a really fast bend and release. It comes from the Latin term, I have it written down, to vibrate. Yeah, so there you go. So you're gonna vibrate the string up and down. And again, vibrating it up and down, doing vibrato, the space and like how far up you go does affect the sound. I like a wide vibrato personally, something kind of like this. I also don't want it to be too fast. Some people do. I'm not really a big fan of that. I like a nice wide and a kind of mid-tempo vibrato. One of the ways you can get this is by using what people call the door handle technique, or the door, what is it called? Like the door knob or whatever. Instead of performing vibrato with your fingertips and the muscles on your fingers, that doesn't really quite work. You perform it with the supination and pronation of the wrist. So basically twisting and turning the wrist kind of like this. So you find a pivot point inside your hand here, and you pivot around like this. And this does work quite well because you're using bigger muscles that have just like, I don't know, maybe there's like more momentum or there's more control over them or something like that. The smaller muscles just don't give nice sounding vibrato, I found. Kind of like shaking this part of my wrist instead of doing this with just my fingertips. That doesn't sound so good. That sounds a little bit better. Natural harmonics are maybe something a little bit confusing. So basically, when you have a note, we call that a fundamental. So let's just take our like open E string, something kind of like this. Inside of this note, you're not just hearing E, you're also hearing a bunch of harmonics. They're also called partials. They're also called overtones. There's a bunch of other words for them. The most important and the loudest note is that E pitch at that frequency, but also you hear the octave up inside of that open string. Now, the reason why I know this is because when I take the fundamental, the open E string, and I mute it by cutting it in half at the 12th fret, I don't like totally stop the string from vibrating. I'm just like cutting it in half. And that's where this half is vibrating and this half is vibrating. And it just so happens that just this half vibrating gets picked up by the pickups here. And that is double the frequency of the open E string. So that's this guy right here. And you can hear it's just like, it's quite loud now that I've muted the fundamental, but it's also like twice the pitch. Now you can keep going and divide the string up into smaller and smaller segments. You can find another octave here, dividing the string into quarters. You can also do fifths. Over the 7th fret. And you've probably seen people tune like this. You'll tune... It's quite an accurate way to tune by using harmonics. But yeah, harmonics are basically just a point in the string that you mute, that mutes the fundamental, but allows one of the divisions of the string to shine through a little bit louder, and it gives you a different pitch. And so what's great is like different pitches exist within this fundamental string, this fundamental vibrating note. And that's kind of why we have enjoyable music, because notes relate to each other because they're hidden within one another. And that's how you get cool music. Just like we did the natural harmonics with our fretting hand, we can also do that with our picking hand. And that's where we get artificial harmonics. Now, artificial harmonics are no different, really, than natural harmonics. It's one of the biggest differences, just in the way that you get them, is that you're playing them on a fretted note. So I guess that's maybe why they call them artificial, because it's not the fundamental of the open string, it's the fundamental of the fretted note that you're muting, to then get higher partials or overtones or harmonics of that note. So we could take on the 5th fret of the low E string, and we can mute it with our thumb. So we pick and then mute immediately. And then we get all these other cool harmonics. Remember, all we're doing is muting the string and dividing it up into small chunks. So I might be dividing it up into quarters or eighths or sixteenths or whatever, and that raises the pitch. The smaller the grouping that I subdivide it into, the higher the pitch. And oftentimes they're different in the note, or you get a different note, if you know what I mean. So that's artificial harmonics, and they sound really cool with vibrato. All right, so there are some guitar terms. I hope that you learned a bunch today. If you want to know anything else, please leave me some questions in the comments, and I'll try to do another video just like this, explaining some things, and I'll see you next time.